summer day. We're absolutely feeling the summer energies. I hope everybody's enjoying the solstice energy, and enjoying Gaia. Please get out into Gaia. She will help you assist with any symptomologies that Ascension is offering you. So today we're going to talk about just channel messages that I've received so that I can transfer the energy and transfer the messages. Because if I write it down and it's not, it's written down in my notes and things like that, but I have it always sitting on the back burner, if you will, because it's important that I get it out to the collective because it's my contract. I always feel like I'm not doing my job if I don't get it out to the collective. And so we just wanted to talk a little bit more about the DNA, the mtDNA, which is the mitochondria DNA. Those are the mitochondria DNA, and you can look it up and do your research. There's lots of videos on YouTube about the mitochondria DNA and how it looks and how it creates the new DNA perspective. You can watch the videos on that just to learn more about DNA, learn more about the brain functions, the different brain functions. We're going to talk just a little quick, tiny little bit on the brain. I have some really cool downloads this morning about the brain, and we're going to be linking more in with the brain, how it's designed as a tool, and also the divine mind. The divine mind is called the mind, and also known as the innate. Each of us have a need that is linked to our Kosh, and the innate is like a motherboard. So the divine mind is like a motherboard to all creation. So it's like, a top-down effect. The top-down effect, this is the top-down effect of one universe, and all those little points or aspects of you. If you have your soul aspects on whatever dimension, whatever bandwidth, and as a cycle of time, then there's no real time. We're dropping what is time and space, and it's just whatever those energies that come up to be integrated into the field, that's your integration of your 51%. And then as you climb up the ladder, if you will, the Jacob's ladder, the divine mind is within all of these bandwidths, the divine mind. And the divine mind is the innate, it's the motherboard to the universe, because at any point where, I'm going to give you an example, because it's short, sometimes about clairs, how you assist in using your clairs is the 3 A's, acknowledging that you're a multidimensional being in a multidimensional universe, and that everything is a quantum equation. You're a quantum experience, pulsations, and energy, and it's interacting with fields, and you have a field around you, your aura, all of the causal and the emotional fields, everything that is around you is your your fields that help you interpret, sending and receiving information. So as you're pulsating from the vessel of who you are, our role is to assist you in healing so that you're a more balanced experience and a balanced energy vessel, so that this matter body can become as healthy as possible as we're upgrading in light and we're being enhanced in light all the time, every day. And as we're being enhanced in light, our natural emanation, our natural pulsation to that other aspect of energy that is the all is going to return to you. So everything is a quantum equation. So it's a quantum pulsation, and it's up to you to bring the inner pulsation so that your outer pulsation refers back to you in grander, miraculous, reflective ways. So again, it's this understanding as within and so without, and as above and so without, so below. And so if there is no connection above, if there is no connection with spirit, if you're not connecting spirit with your within bodies, your chakras, your organs, and all of the things that make you think of the human matter body, understanding that the water body is cryptic, understanding that all you are as a beautiful being of light that is matter, that you're allowing yourself to integrate and consider for yourself what it means to be a God vessel, what it means to be a higher light version of yourself, Metatronic light. As you work with light every day and you're integrating light every day, you're going to see and feel yourself change, and you're going to feel yourself operate in different ways. And it does affect your DNA, it does affect your cells, how your cells replicate. And we all know that consciousness is just a spinning field of energy, and if you're not keeping up with maintaining the base minimum, the medium beat, if you will, the oscillation of the medium vibration of Earth, then you're going to be off every shift as we move up, because the lower vibrational dimensions are being pulled out, and as we're moving up in the higher dimensions, those people will be rising above as they're keeping up with light. And so the mtDNA is where the information for all of your Akashic lineages, as your DNA is activated, as that light hits that DNA codon, the mtDNA is activated, and therefore it releases through pulsations through your receptors and the aspects of the multidimensional bodies that you're able to pull those energies and pull those informations and start using them and grounding them into your now moment. And so it's really important to understand that everything is a quantum equation, is a quantum experience, equals MC squared. As you're releasing that DNA experience, your multidimensional bodies are going to be behaving in a different way. And if you understand the path of ascension, you understand the process of ascension, you understand your soul's progression. Again, we always ask you, how important is your soul's progression? And then you can start knowing when you're going through a phase of just integrating. You're integrating a lot of information, you're processing integration, you're maybe doing a purge. So it's really good to understand. I wrote about my first book is what phase of ascension are you at, because your monthly cycle, wherever your cycles are, sometimes they're faster, sometimes they're every 2 weeks. Whatever your ascension cycle is will allow you to understand when is your in-gathering phase. You're gathering a lot of information. Right now I'm in an in-gathering phase. I want to do a lot of reading, I want to do a lot of research, I want to pull in a lot of information. And then I can start, processing what are the key points I want to start focusing on. What different pieces can I put in my book? So I'm doing a lot of in-gathering right now. So a lot of the purging has been done. And your body, your multidimensional bodies will have cycles. It's important that we understand cycles. It's important that we understand why we have cycles. And I always suggest, because I'm a huge proponent of journaling, it's in all my books. I don't know why my volume, I don't know, maybe I have my hand on the speaker. I'm talking normally. And so because your cycle is unique to you, you're not going to be on the same cycle as everybody else. That's why ascension is never ever a race. It's never competition. So really, really release yourself from those, especially in the spiritual community, if they behave in a way that is competitive, and if they're focused on competition, they're focused on numbers, they're focused on all the things that are competitive and that's not spirituality, it's not being aligned. Knowing that every soul is unique, every soul is different, and if you're doing your ascension pathway, you're going to be on the correct pacing for you. So I always suggest getting a journal and logging the dates roughly, in the calendar when we release some time and space, as we go more into 5D, but allowing yourself to just release, allowing yourself to honor the cycle of your body, your natural flow, because we want to maintain homeostasis as best we can with natural order. And your higher self will keep surrendering you to a natural order. That is your higher self's job, is to keep you in as natural order as possible. But the ego sometimes pushes itself out of the natural order. So that's why it's really good to do your journaling and understand when you're having the purging, understand when you're having your dark nights of the soul. It's usually on a monthly basis that you can start noticing. And we really want you to start paying attention to your body, your multidimensional bodies in your field, because as you're moving through ascension, you're going to be able to feel a little bit more calm and a little bit more in control. You're in commandmentship of your multidimensional body. And if you're doing your journaling, and if you're understanding ascension, then the little bumps and the little, roller coaster, shifts and movements aren't going to be that big of a deal for you. You can navigate energy in whatever way it comes to you. And so it's really good to journal your ascension process and let everybody in your family know, or those that you're closest and those that you live with, that you are moving on the path of ascension. That's your choice. You choose intention. And that you're going to be moving through various cycles. You're going to have cycles where you're going to be doing a lot of reading and gathering and taking your kids to the library. And then you're going to have cycles where you just need to be healing for a couple of days, and you're going to be really quiet with yourself, and you're going to be out in nature a lot. So let your family know what's involved with the process of attention, that you're respecting and honoring your body. It sets a good example for your kids. That when they're going through things like breakups or losses of jobs, they take that time to heal themselves. They take that time to reflect on the emotional, the mental, the physical, the sexual, the biophysical and metaphysical experiences that we all experience through cycle changes. That is what's meant to be a master. And so, as we said before, that many people have called themselves masters, but they don't do any work at all. They don't understand cycles. They're still thinking competitively, and those aren't masters. Masters don't compete, and especially in spirituality, because we all understand the fingerprints of the source creator. We all come with unique activations in our DNA. We all come with unique activations of where and what lineages and what star systems we come from. We all understand that we're in a different DNA allocation of how much we've worked with integrating the DNA allocation from the 51% of our divine feminine and masculine energy. So I've never really talked about that before. I can tell you that it was worth it. I can't wait to get my illustrations done. So the DNA allocation, right? that little thermometer that goes from the 0 dimensional to the 13th dimension, whatever DNA allocation that you have activated, your DNA allocation is completely different than somebody else's. Some person that's next to you that might be a friend of yours that is on the enlightenment path, they may also be on a path of awakening and wanting to be in enlightenment. They're very spiritual, but they may be a very young soul, and they may be here to explore and create different things in you. It doesn't mean that you can't be on that path together, but you have to understand that, you know, release yourself from all competition at all times, because it does keep you stagnant. It does keep you in ego, and that's not the role of your evolving in a spirit as spirit. So just remember that. You can't force your DNA activations. You cannot force your purging of your dark night of the soul. Those are all divinely timed. Your teams are here to help you guide through the multi-dimensional releasing, purging. Your teams will give you inspirations of when you're meant to ingather. They'll give you inspirations of things you're meant to really look into right now. You know, because you're going into a new cycle of learning about something new, because it's going to be a part of your new offering to your collective. So that's why your teams do offer you inspiration from those. You know, and again, it's about the sequencing of events. Pay attention to that. That's learning about the correlation. You know, the correlation of the outer is everything that you're moving through within. Because you're shifting within. The DNA is shifting everything in all your pulsations. And so, like yesterday, I was walking through the library, and I usually walk fairly fast. So I was walking over to the checkout machine, and just on the bookshelf, you know, there's the place where they put all the books back. There's a little shelf that you wheel around, and this book like just stood out at me. And this happened to me a lot when I first started to awaken to the really good bookstores. And so that's how my team would get my attention. They would just have the title of the book really fly off the shelf at me. My eyes would be just really geared towards a certain book, and that would help awaken me, because there's something in that book they want me to read, and there's something very tangible about maybe the synchronicities I've been seeing that I haven't been able to explain to myself or explain away, because sometimes your ego likes to do that. And so when you are awakening, your teams will do that. They'll give you sequencing of events, the circumstances, places, and people, things you're noticing. So again, get your journal out. You'll always see that correlation of how your inner is creating the outer. The more aware you are, the more observatory you are about the synchronicities of all that is on your present mind. And so we wanted to say that, you know, I had this beautiful thought this morning, because I was thinking, okay, well, let's talk about the divine mind. So if this is like a universal experience, and you have the micro macro in your little fields down below, you have all of these fields that's about 8 to 12 feet, depending on, you know, how big your aura is, and how clear your aura is, and how much you're excited to be in your aura, and all the things that make you happy to be. Your aura gets bigger because you want expansiveness. And so, but you're also sitting in a universal aura. And universal aura, which we call, is the divine mind. It's the divine omnipresence. The omnipresence is always present. As in the name, it's omni, and it's all that is oneness. It is the mind of God and Mother and Father. There's Mother, Father energies of all creation. Again, release the energies, and it was a very easy release yesterday when we thought, you know, the Mother and the Father are not beings, but they do present themselves as that, because they understand that's how we connect that's how we connect the ego in ourselves. That's how we connect ourselves with love. It's the beings that have elders, you know, that have guided us. So they do present themselves in your visions as mother and father. I do see the father as a man, and I do see the mother as a mother. And so they do present themselves as, you know, archetypes. But in the creational energy, the creational wave of galactic and multi-galactic energies, it is the threading of the omnipresent field, and they're like waves. It's like a synchronistic waves of many, many guitar strings that run in all directions. And that is the omnipresent mind. The omnipresent mind is the general things as we said yesterday. So understanding, you know, who are you, what do you consider, and what does it mean that you have that ability to have the potential to have your gifts and your skills and your talents connect with whatever is in the omnipresent field, and say, what does the divine feminine Andromeda, who's still in her body, usually, you know, just under the seventh dimension, the seventh dimension, and usually as close to the seventh dimension, they become more quasi-physical. And so, I don't know why the sound is muffled. It shows it right on my side. Is that better? Just tell me about the sound. I don't know why. Same sound I had yesterday. I don't know, maybe I'm talking faster. So we'll talk about that again. So the omnipresent field is everything that's in the field. Looks like a big mark head. Everything that's in the field is the omni-mind, the mind, the divine mind of Mother, Father, God, the divine mind. So if I was to ask myself and use my clairs, I could say, can you give me a creational link, that thread? And I have a creational thread to a seventh dimensional or a sixth dimensional Andromeda divine feminine. And then you can ask for that, and your teams and your higher self will thread you up, because you always have to go up to the higher mind. The higher mind is through the pineal, and the higher mind through your heart space, because your heart space is connecting with the highest benevolence, right? So you always want to use your heart space. Once you've done your clearing, once you've done your grounding, then you say, I'm going to practice my clairs today. I'm going to practice connecting with the divine feminine energies. I want to know what the difference in the feeling. I want to start feeling different energies. I want to start feeling different beings, different consciousnesses. So this is what I did with my guides. I would say, can you bring me a Syrian? Somebody from my family of Syrian. And I would just get used to different energies, because sometimes I have to have so many of my clairs that are activated. I want to play with my different gifts, and I want to feel it in my field. Sometimes they're imprints, sometimes they give me a vision, sometimes I just know how they feel, sometimes I just feel a certain species next to me and I just know. They don't have to tell me, they don't have to send that imprint, and that's what they do. They're very proficient at it. When you say, can you send me an imprint, that usually means you're cognizant, you just absolutely know what you know, that's what God does with me. Or you can have the imprint of your third eye, and that where they're just sending pictures. They're very proficient at it because they're higher vibrational, they're all telepathic. And so you can ask that and play with that with your guides, and then just have 3 days a week where you're working on one of your clairs, and really get used to working with it in certain ways, asking questions, because most of what your proficiency will be is working with your guides, and really getting used to working with your guides and how to use your gifts within this new omnipresent allness that you know now is God. Source Creator is the omnipresent, it is the intelligent field of all that is energy. So the more that you refine your energies within yourself to say, I am connected with all, there is never any such separation, whether it's your collective, whether it's your lover, whether it's the garden that you want to grow, the beautiful garden that you want to grow your own fruits and vegetables. There's a unity and oneness in that. And once you start connecting that intention, the all fields of Source Creator start sending you just naturally, because it's your intention that sparks the divine omni mind, will send you back that correlation of energy. So that's where we've talked about for many, many years in my shows. Just like that book jumping off the shelf, it was time for me to start looking and investigating different ideas and different topics that I'm excited about. So this book just kind of jumped off the shelf at me, and I just opened it up to one page, and it gave me another expression of the omnipresence, but from a neurological point of view. And so some of the things I'm going to be looking at is challenging where the neurologies are, the neurological theories are about consciousness, and taking it a step further. And so I've come up with some great little, hypotheses about, some of our old physicists, and how they've seen and understood consciousness, and how the brain is the tool to seek the consciousness information, the information that is in consciousness. It's the omnipresent field, it's the omnipresent God. So how does the brain, how do your pulsations, how does the spirit of you seek that information in all fields? So that's what I really want us to get used to, is knowing that you are a God consciousness being. Your intention, direction, and your focus is how you find that information in the all God field. Your brain is the tool just to help you feed whatever information you need to logically, because your brain is just a logic mechanism. It helps you logically put information into where it needs to be put, so you can understand it, especially if it's very complex information. Like downloads. Downloads are something that you need your clairs for interpreting, and downloads are a huge part of how your brain has to be enhanced through time, through the enhancement of light that we're always being given. Because your brain is not, a 5D dimensional download is different than a 7D download. So your brain does need to be enhanced. So that's your team's job as well. A 7D download, like some of the things I'm getting now, are entering into 7D when it comes to the brain and the DNA. Because again, we have never been at this point of expansion in the collective before. So there are some of us that are meant to keep following our excitement. We're meant to keep following the 3 E's, so that we can keep pushing that momentum of that 5D co-creative newer star. We're each having an individual intention And that is the intention of a collective moving or star into these new co-creative experiences within the omnipresent field. And the omnipresent field, as we said, we'll say it again, is always being updated. The source creator, if there is an excitement within you, it's always equal measure. So that omnipresent will always show you that equal vibration of giving back. And so as you're giving and receiving, ascending and receiving, your neurons are always, the receptors in your multidimensional bodies are just looking for that next equals MC squared. Where is that equal opportunity of that physical, it's called physical because it's actually energy that's moving. It wants that magnetic equal, right? And so that's just exactly what we do with our soulmates. We're sending out these beautiful pulsations of this is who I am now. Where is that magnetic equal? Where is the magnetic equal that I can explore who I am and be loved and be honored without condition? They're not going to use me and abuse me because you've learned so many karmic lessons. So now you're in that state and this is why communication with your team is so key. Because your team will ask you, did you want me to bring in this other soulmate for you? If you're wanting to move into a different arena or a different direction, you can go into a different direction for a little while. But there is always the divine full blueprint that source creator will always, and your team will always thread you back to. So again, yes, you can take detours, and yes, you can go look into and do different things. You do have that free will. For the most part, everybody will be guided back to their divine soul blueprint. And it's always good that you do go off path every once in a while, because you always navigate what is your true center, what is your true north. So those are, again, working with your 3 E's. Doing the ascension path work is so very important, because then it's a higher state of knowing. I know thyself, I know my name, right? So when you're doing the path work, there's nobody that can sway you off of, no, it's your excitement. No, this is my excitement. There's no competition with it. I know what I know. Therefore, you're not swayed and you're not pushed out of your lane. You're not pushed out of your box, because it's just in your natural, this is just who you are. If you're a songwriter, you just write songs. This is just who I am. It's just something that is coming natural to you. You know how to move about, the creative block sometimes. And you'll always come back to that true center. And so it's always practicing, and that's what we call the sense of self. Now remember that the sense of self is a multidimensional experience, right? The sense of self, now that we're becoming more uniquely aware of our gifts, and we each have clairs, it's up to each person to work with their clairs. It's up to each person to work with how they receive energy, how they receive information. Again, your teams are going to be enhancing your brain automatically. You don't have to worry about that. But I do suggest that you are really tightly communicating with your team to say, if you do feel things going on in your brain and you do feel that, then notice it and recognize it, because you want that higher attunement with your body. You want the higher attunement to feel everything in your body. That allows you to be a better self-healer. If you want to send energy to a certain part of your body, you want to know how something is going. If there is something in your body that is not necessarily in balance, then it will show, your body will show you, and your body will feel it before you intuitively feel it before something happens manifested. Like you get sores or bumps or rashes. Those are the manifestations of something that's not balanced within you. So the more that you pay attention to your multidimensional bodies and how your bodies of God communicate with you, work with your teams and just keep them in communication. What are we doing today? What are we working on? I'd like to feel greater enhancement in my parietal lobe. If you're doing something in my parietal lobe, can you give me a sign or a cue so I can feel around what you're doing and how you're doing it? So just keep your guides really close like that. And then you're also in touch with your bodies as you're moving through your own ascension path, and just keep very close touch with your guides. Because again, the bodies that we're moving through right now, you're the one that is commandmentship to integrate and process light. It's processing light, and it's doing so much. So it is really, really important that you ease your body into the processing of light, the minutia with light, and be easy on your body. If you can release a lot of the red meat, red meats are really hard for your body to digest. And your body is already doing a lot of work. So it's good if you can get off as much red meat as possible. And just go into, whiter meats or a lot of water-rich foods, and then easier for your body to process. And then also pay attention to the cycles of your ascension. If you're going through a purge, you want to do a lot of water-rich food, a lot of bathing in the ocean or bathing with salt water, and just get used to your own clearing, how you clear your fields, how you clear your chakras, have some good meditation tapes that you go to, and then work into that new arena, because as you're doing a purge, you know that there's going to be an up-leveling of light. 2 or 3 days to let that purging fully excrete. And as you're releasing those purgings, you'll find different things with your body that's going on. You know, you may have diarrhea, you may have constipation. So pay attention to how your body's moving through these various ascension cycles and mark them down, like, and have a journal. You know, I would say have a dream journal where you're writing in your dreams every morning before you do anything else, and then you have some time to reflect on it as you're meditating, you're connecting with your team. That's your morning ascension password, and then you set your intentions for the day. Right? You have your communication with the creator, you have your intentions with your team, you have your intentions with your higher self, and then you just allow the day to unfold. And then as you're seeing the reality return back to you, your pulsation, it's really good to take note and take understanding for what is coming back to you. What is the energy? What is the symbolism? What is coming back to you in the omnipresent divine mind? So again, you know, it's up to everybody to be the commander of how they're receiving information, how they're sending information in the multidimensional bodies, what is the energy they're sending out, and what are they paying attention to and observing. So again, write it down and journal it. I don't know why there's such trouble with the sound today. Everything looks normal. Although I did go through some clearing last night, so maybe it's a big energy. So again, we're going to work with the clairs, so we'll just keep going. So hopefully it'll be okay, unless I can sign off and we'll try again. But it might be worse. So I'll let you know. Let me know. So the omnipresent consciousness is, again, the whole universe is the omnipresent mind, the God mind. So at any point in time, we're allowing ourselves to just be in touch and be in communion, in alignment with. And what is alignment again is connection and relationship. Connection and relationship with the divine mind, with God mind. It's available to us at any moment. So again, allowing your beliefs and your perspectives about what God truly is the emanation of all the vibrational fields. It's the omnipresent intelligence. As we intend great excitement for new co-creative projects, for new co-creative collaborations, and those energies will be sent back to us in the highest and the best for whatever the collective needs at that time, because God knows what God's doing. So that's why God will give those that are ready. The inspirations always come down through the higher self, the pineal. So if your pineal is blocked, if you don't have communication with your team and you're not working with your team, it's going to be hard to get those downloads, right? So when you're receiving downloads, especially if you're going to be a channel or a medium, it's good that you understand your multidimensional bodies, your chakra systems, your fields, how you send and receive information, your teams and your guides, your higher self. You need to have that reflective daily co-creation. You need to have that communion. We're going to just go over a few things because we're talking about clairs. We've talked about this briefly before, but they suggested yesterday that I do something I'll do it in writing, maybe in a week or two. I'm trying not to, go on the computer and do too much. I'm just allowing the energies to just live with me. So I'm trying not to do as much typing as I used to do. So, but we want to talk about guidelines for spiritual teachers, healers, and leaders, for those that will be in the collective and choose to want to be a guide for the collective, right? You've been training for, so many years. You've come here specifically to help your collective and also enhance your gifts and skills as a teacher, healer, and a leader. And so we wanted to talk about guidelines because now that we're seeing a lot of the old structures, the organizations and the old structures fall, and because there has never been a collective foundation of what are the steps and what are the guidelines and what is the protocol that we follow. I have put up a protocol on my children's blog spot. There is a protocol to work with higher vibrational dimensional beings because we do have a protocol. We set standards, we set boundaries so that we're making sure that our field and our energy is protected. As you see in my daily YouTube posts, I always post my standards. I always post my boundaries. Those that are allowed to come back into my energy and those that are not. Those are setting standards, because I see in the energy field and my teams are letting me know if they're doing the work and if they're not doing the work. Are they returning in the same energy and the same intention of selfishness? Is it benevolent co-creation, or is it selfish, continuing karmic patterns? So I know this is how I communicate with my team. And my teams will, sometimes they won't even tell me, they just will not allow people to enter into my space because there's been so much abuse. And because it's just not a genuine connection, they just want to take. So there will be people that you have to set boundaries and standards and have that as a daily co-creation of you loving your body, and set that role model for your children as well. Because you don't have to continue to have relationships with the people that do not respect you, that do not respect your spiritual stance, that your spiritual becoming. And you want to be able to set those boundaries within your house, of your meditation space, of your working space. And just like when you're going to a person's house to visit, are there any areas off limits? And you're usually they'll say, come and sit in my sitting room, and feel free to make yourself comfortable wherever. So people let you know about their boundaries of co-creation, their boundaries of sharing, and their boundaries of sharing your energy. And so do that, make that a regular practice, because as you become more loving of yourself, you're gonna feel when energies are not good for you. You're gonna feel when things are not okay. And you need to state that. You need to say, I'm not okay with your energy right now. You need to, if you're going through something, go away and figure it out. Go away and sort it out. It's not up to you to be their sounding board or their karma dumping board. People that manipulate energy, like the ones we've come from, that we've been talking about, the people that are very good at manipulating energy, the ones that work in manipulation of energy, the ones that work in cults and covens and dark occult practices, they are very good at manipulating energy. They're very good at what they have done. Many of them have been stripped, and they're not having access to those manipulation packs anymore. So they're being stripped right back so that they can learn from ground zero, which means that we need to have guidelines. And because there is immaturity, very young souls in the creational collective, they're not mature souls at all. They're just very young in the playground, and they experience themselves as very primordial, and that's their energy. We've talked about that before as far as the reptilian DNA that's only been activated. They don't have any Christ consciousness activation. They don't work within a heart chakra. They're not understanding heart chakras or any chakra systems at all. So there's not a lot of intelligence with certain beings that you're going to come in contact with, and why they choose to use the dark occult, because it's something that they can understand. It's how they use their forcefulness with energy. And again, we want to get back to natural order. So just allowing source energy to flow through you, just allowing your light to flow through you, but that creates, you have to do the work because you want to be able to surrender and just allow. That's why the 3 A's and the 3 E's are so important. And it does allow you to return to the natural order. It does allow you to return to how things should be. It's just moving about life in love and peace and honor. You don't ever have to use magic. You don't ever have to use voodoo. So those people that are coming from those experiences, they're used to manipulation. They're used to forcing energy. They're used to pushing energy. They're used to pushing their narrative. And they have many ways of doing it: physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. And so part of my role here is to come forward and to set new guidelines, is to assist in new systems for 5D Earth, North Star. And in the various sections of teaching, healing, leading, and education, and the higher education and arts and entertainment. The field of arts and entertainment is as wide as the omnipresent source creator is. So there's lots of expansiveness for us to move in, and there's lots of room for us to grow and explore ourselves as creator gods. But there needs to be guidelines, and we've talked a little bit about it here and there, and I'll do something up that's more substantiated, because I'm going to have to be presenting it in many of the systems that we will be rebuilding politically, and new laws that will be created, so that we understand the use of energy, positive, negative, and neutral. There will be those that will continue to use dark occult magic, and they will continue to be filtered as if they continue that is their free will. And they will continue to be filtered away from those that are continuing in a path of just allowing natural order and allowing your own direction, intention, and focus just to be your life manifestation of what's coming back to you. You never have to use any other manipulation process. You shouldn't be using manipulation in any way. You should just allow source creator to bring you what it is. You want to know yourself as a magnetic vessel of source creator. You don't need to force, you don't need to make, you don't need to spell cast, you don't need to cloak, you don't need to veil, you don't need to put on an act, you don't need to wear masks. That people that are not, people that don't have a sense of self, people that have always lied, people that have always worn masks, this is how they operate in their social experience. Those, of course, that have been in cults and covens and dogmatic experiences and social experiences, doesn't matter where they are, and even some of their lineages, they behave in certain ways because that's how they feel accepted, that's how they feel belonging. And so it's up to everybody just to perceive it with detachment and compassion, and just allow everyone their path, and remind those people that continually go back into the patterns of karma of competition and lack of self, because usually those people that are talk about competition, or they feel threatened by everybody all the time, and they want to have those projections of hurt and pain on others, they're usually those ones that don't have a sense of self. They're not working with a sense of self, and they just act out in envy and jealousy. And then that's when they start using the magic and the voodoo to attack those people to make themselves feel better. It never ever resolves the problem. It never makes them feel better. They just look for more magic to keep attacking. Because people aren't going to go anywhere. We have to feel okay with who we are in the puzzle of all creation. We are each unique puzzle pieces, and we're here to get used to and get to know who we are, so that our unique offering is that which is to creation. And it's like no other. My heartbeat and my gifts and my senses and my song and my voice and my chakras, it's all filled with experiences that are just of me. My chakras are filled with my experiences. And there's nobody that can take on those experiences. They can try, but they're not, again, as we've talked about many times before, their vessel and their body and their consciousness and how they've earned their consciousness, what level of capacity and aptitude they're working with, they would never be able to even copy one of my chakra experiences or Akashic experiences. They can get on stage and try and be an actor of it, and they can pretend, which they've done. They've had doppelgangers pretend to be me, you know. And so, but that's just, they're moving around. They're immature. They're very young soul energies. They're very immature. When you choose to use manipulation, when you choose to use sacrificing, when you choose to use such things, it's an immature experience, because you haven't done the work. You're not mature in who are you. Anybody that comes forward and gives me any type of a topic, we can put it on the table and I can explain it 10 ways to Sunday. That's mature. I'm a master. I'm an ancient soul. And then it gives them a lot of information to go away and think about it. Sometimes they just want to challenge you because they just want to challenge you. They just don't like your state. And then I said again, well, it's free will. You don't have to be on my channel. So it's depending. If they do it in goodwill, then I can come up with 10 ways to Sunday. If it is done just to be ignorant and just to keep challenging because they want to stand in ignorance, then they're just coming on the channel because they're forcing their way to be hateful. They're forcing their way to throw you off. Again, it's an immature experience. They're working from a fear experience. They're working from lack of self. They don't know who they are. So they want to challenge you and project onto you that, try to throw you off. So this is just using and understanding that when you're being put through a lot of experiences in your teens, and Mother, Father, God are allowing you to take those detours, because you have to navigate to get that extra experience, so that you know when to engage and when not to engage. You know when to pull on your gifts and skills and talents, and you know when to set boundaries, because not everybody is going to be worthy of the light and the wisdom that you offer. There is an old saying, which I've never liked it, but this is an old saying that's said to me often, because it gets to the point that you don't always offer the best food to swine. So that's where you're learning how to be a high priestess and a master hermit. You're not going to give information that people aren't ready for. And sometimes those people that force their way onto your pages, on your channels, they're not ready for high vibrational information. They haven't done the work. They're just there to throw hate at you and to throw you off. That's their game plan. So again, you have to know how to use your gifts and skills. You have to have those foundations and those guidelines. So I always suggest having a set, easy 3 or 4 things that is a guideline to you, how and when and what way to use your gifts and skills. And then always refer to your guides. I always refer to my guides. Sometimes when I'm taking pauses, I'm actually having a telepathic communication with them, and I'm listening to their response, because they know what I'm going to ask before I ask it. So sometimes they're giving me the answers before I move through, but sometimes me asking the question also helps move the energy. So this is why I go through what I go through with my teams, and I tell you these things, because it's important to have that communication with your team. The expression of who you are, the collaboration of who you are, the integration of who you are, the processing of who you are. It's important to have these engagements and these communions with the team, because it churns you, right? You're becoming a new version of you. So that's why we have guidelines, because not everybody in the collective is going to be at the same, it's going to be impossible to have anybody in one cluster at the same rate of ascension. They're at different levels of understanding consciousness. Consciousness is one of the biggest things that's all creation. Consciousness is everything. But it's the most misunderstood because we've been so misaligned with church and state. And it's not taught anywhere. So consciousness is something we're going to be talking about every day. It's going to have to include our gifts, skills, and our talents, and it is the omnipresence that is always being shown to us as God, Mother, Father. The mother energies and the father energies. And it is an intelligent field of mother, father life. And how we receive those information is your own attunement. Are you working with how you receive energy? Are you working with, again, your multidimensional bodies and keeping your bodies refined and cleared and cleansed so that you can be optimal when you are getting a download? And then when you do get a download, you know how to unpack it and then understand it from a higher perspective of consciousness. So again, when I say, are you doing your path work? And sometimes your teams will give you a download and they'll give you a sentence here and there, or maybe they'll give you a paragraph, but you have to go and look up words. Because they're higher in vibration, and so that helps you also understand who you are. It helps you understand, getting that higher aptitude and capacity so that you want to have a higher vibrational speech. You're going to have a higher vibrational eating patterns. You're going to have higher vibrational crew, right? You want a couple of people that are with you that are higher vibrational to maintain your path. You want to have an optimization partner or people that are with you that keep challenging you to amp up your vibration, to keep those vibrations going. And this is why I've suggested for my clients is to have appointments every now and then so we can get the clearing done. You can get your direction and your focus a bit more refined, right? So whatever it is you're wanting to create, you get more refinement into who you are as a multi-vibrational being, how to communicate with your guides, how to set the guidelines that are important to you, and then be okay with allowing some of your friends and some of the family for spirit just to move out of the way, because not everyone's going to come with you on the ride. And that you have to work through that detachment, right? And so we're just going to do some guidelines. There are universal laws. The two that we talk about that are the most important, that you can always refer back to these two universal laws that the federations pay attention to, that is everything to do with first protocol. We are preparing humanity for fifth dimensional integration of our galactic families, our universal family. The highest priority that is within every single galactic meeting is within every galactic interaction of aliens and celestials, and based on the maturity of every entity is how they work with right use of free will and non-interference. For this planet's ascension, the Father has stated right use of free will and non-interference. It is very important for every human to come into its own exploration, expression, and experience of Source Creator. Because there have been many experiments done in the past through Pleiadian timelines, through Sirian timelines, and even through Lyran timelines, where they have interfered with societies and with a civilization's activation to return back to Source, to remember themselves as Source, to remember themselves as godliness. And because there's been so much dogmatic suppression and governmental suppression and government agendas that have torn us right into a de-evolved state, it's going to be very important for everybody to understand that light wisdoms are there. Light wisdoms are the only intelligence, and how to navigate through releasing your beliefs and your perspectives about what has kept you in a certain box or a certain pattern that is not necessarily the highest intelligence. So the right use of free will and non-interference is the highest order of the first universal law that all federations pay attention to. If they are not paying attention to the right use of free will, then they are working for dark forces, and they will come in and they will, suck and harvest you, and they don't care. But those that work on behalf of the light program, those that work on behalf of the federations of light, those that work on behalf of the Mother, Father, Divine's plan for evolution of all creation, that is the number one law that everybody works with. So your teams are not going to provide action or interference that is not held within that first universal law. They will not just come down and land on your yard and just give you the information you're looking for to go build a nuclear light ship. The teams would never do that. This is why we've had those protocols since Eisenhower. There's been a lot of co-creation back and forth with celestials and aliens and the government, but they have abused the contract. They have abused the understanding of a contract of higher dimensional beings. There's information we're not going to give humanity because they're still immature. They're still working from fear and control. And this is where a person like myself, a being like myself chosen, I come through and I do state certain decrees from the Father, from the Federation. Because the highest jurisdiction is not the human collective politicians. They've shown and proven time and time again that the highest and the greatest good is not their highest concern. It's their agendas for power and control and business. But there is the higher divine plan. So again, we say guidelines because it is aligned with your sacred trinity. It is aligned with your higher soul blueprint. You don't have to worry about anybody else with these two laws. Right use of free will and non-interference, use it every day. And if there's somebody before you, and if you're getting those intuitive hits, like I practice with my teams all the time, that I've been through so many initiations, this is why I can talk about it. This is why I'm a master. There were many times where I would have a gift that would open up and I would see a vision, it was a young couple walking before me in their, 30s or something, and they're just a newlywed, family. And I would see something that's going on in their family. It might be, there might be something going on in the family, and I'll see a vision unfold, or I'll see them fighting in the background on a different level, on a different, maybe a past experience. And then I'll have to shut that down. I'll tell my team, okay, shut that down. So I have the ability to go into any experience of those passing by me, if they're just in the mall, and I can see something that's just brought forward to me. And I don't go and seek it. And this is the difference between using your gifts benevolently or using it to have it selfishly and greedily. Everybody that I've come from has been misusing it and abusing it. They've done everything they can to get into your energy and to get into your dreams and to get into your kosh, and they've paid people to get into your kosh. I mean, there's so many spiritual offenses that's not funny, and that's why I won't deal with anybody from the past. My ex, I won't deal with him. I don't care how much anybody says anybody has changed. I don't care. I will not deal with anybody from the past. There's so much disrespect and disregard for spirit, so much disrespect and disregard for spiritual laws and basic common sense, basic human rights, basic human rights. So if you're working with people that don't have any respect or order for basic human rights, the government, for instance, the withholding of personal information that is universally, rightfully, legally yours, those that do not pay attention for interference of your life and illegally stalking and spying on you at all hours of the night and all hours of the day, which they did last night. Somebody stalking me at 3 a.m. in the morning. These are illegal practices. So don't deal with them. Even if they say we want to meet you, we want to deal with, we want to send you an offer. No, I'm not going to know, because it's not comfortable when you just stalked me for the last 3 months and you've had a spy or one of your little minions come and sit outside the place where I sleep at 3 in the morning. Like, how do you think a divine feminine that has told you infinite times there's nobody standing beside me in protection? That's why that's Federation. And you come and send your little stalking minions at 3 in the morning and sit in your car outside. There's just zero respect. It's immature, it's zero respect, and they don't have any value for you as a person. They don't have any value for you as a sensing, receiving being of godliness. They don't care. They want what they want. So then again, set your boundaries. Those are my guidelines. I'm not going to deal with you. And so I've set my boundaries very, 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 sternly. No, I'm not going to deal with you. I don't even have to talk with you. You're interfering with my human rights. You're interfering with my privacy laws. You're interfering with my information laws. So know your rights. Know your rights on who you are. Know your rights when somebody comes in your house uninvited. Whether it's video cameras, whether it's hacking your phone, it's illegal. It's illegal. And you can have investigators and you can have, take your phone in every now and then and have your phone checked. Your IP addresses and things like that. Nobody has a right to do what they do illegally, stalking, hacking, spying, and swarming into your finances. Those are the people that have come from Calgary. All they care about is getting in your energy so that they can benefit from whatever God is going to bless you with, because they don't want to do the work. They're still the same manipulative people. They're in legal trouble right now, and they're in all of their karmic mess. Because karma and their energies and their deeds and their beliefs of no sense of self, their beliefs of taking, stealing, raping, sacrificing, legal crimes, manipulations, all of the things that they have done, that is their karma returning. So set very clear boundaries with those that always want to return to you. There is no cycle. There will never be a cycle with anybody from the past. There will never, ever, ever be any more cycles with anyone from the past. Never. Nobody from the past. Nobody, 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 nobody from the past will ever come forward and have another cycle with me. Ever. Ever, ever, in a billion evers. The damages were immense. The damages were immense. I will forgive all people involved, but I will never forget. Close to 50 sacrifices. I will never forget the suicide intentions. I will never forget car crashes. I will never forget the poisoning. I will never forget the ugly spells. I will never forget how much all of you hated me. And how much harm and how much hate you hated, you pushed into my, and impaled into my life, and did everything that you could to have everybody around me see me as the way you saw me. Because those were your intentions, those were your directions, and those were your focuses. Now, whether it was somebody outside of your coven that was directing you, whether it was those people that were directing you, whether it was something outside of you, or whether it was the lies from other people, you have to go and make it right for your soul, because there will never, ever be a repair on that. There's no repair. Those people that stole from me, the only way to repair is to return exactly what you stole. And that has to go through the lawyer, because it is actually a criminal act. Defaming my character, defaming my work, putting doppelgangers that make me look like porn stars, and defaming and exploiting fraudulently my name and my character and my work, saying that I'm a druggie and saying all of these things are absolutely 100% wrong. I've been celibate again for 15 years. My story has always been the same. And again, I am as thy name is. I stand in who I am truth. And that's why they all react, and that's why they all get triggered, because they are nothing but lies. I've never signed anything outside of my divorce, and anything that has my signature on it is, again, fraudulent, and it's a lie. This is why I will not engage. I will not pick up any phone calls. I will not engage on any level, not even a quark. I will not engage a quark on anybody, with anybody, of the past. Calgary sex cult, Calgary voodoo, warlock, witchery cult, anybody that's coming forward that has done spell work on me, there's only one person that is allowed to approach me. And this person did do spell work because they were given false information and lies from the people that my ex was involved with. And that one person is allowed to approach me. All others are not allowed to approach me. And that one person that knows who they are, they know who they are, they're allowed to approach me. This person has been the only one that's been given access to assist in being telepathic with me and using my life force. He's the only person. And he is nobody from Calgary. He knows the people from Calgary, but he's not from Calgary. He's the only person that's allowed to approach me. There's nobody else that is allowed to approach me except if it's Interpol and it's the investigators at the top that are working with Archangel Michael to provide me the information, to provide me the money, to provide me the whereabouts, to provide me whatever information that I need to take legal action, because there will be legal action taken on everybody that's defamed my character and taken part in destroying me. There will be legal action. I will sue everybody's asses off because I didn't deserve what was done to me for years and years and years while you all partied and had sex orgies. I will never, ever, 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 ever engage with anybody from the past. It is irreparable beyond all measures. There is nothing that will repair what has been done. You are eternally severed from ever co-creating with me. And this is why Source Creator had a decree yesterday. There is no more time. There's no more grace. So if you choose not to make it right, and if you choose to continue down the same karmic, boring, annoying, benign path of the same karmic patterns of sending people towards me and still doing this spell work and still wishing me suicide and still wishing me premeditated murder by sacrificing me and still doing the same BS cult and coven, warp Masonic, slow dagger, systematic abuse bullshit. If you still do that, you're going to be every day weeded out, and your karma will get more and more worse. I have nothing to say about it. I'm not going to come and clear your demons. I'm not going to come and exercise anything out of you. You're not going to have protection under my wings. I will not save you on any level. Because Anubis has the scales and there ain't balance. Not in one little bit. When you come towards me and you pretend that everything is normal, it's not normal. It's not normal. Every part of my life was affected. How my children see me has been affected. My life and my career and what you've done to my work platform, everything has been affected. YouTube taking money to silence me, everything in my life, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, the Akashic timelines, the spiritual timelines, the spiritual degradation that has been done because of your gang hate, everything has been affected. You've purposely gone in to see how you can break my protection field, how you can break the systems of light that honor me, that support me, that protect me. Every single one of you in your little gang and your cult of hate and your gang and cult of selfishness and greed. It has been so psychopathically warped and benign and disgusting and degrading and dark and